Why doesn't he care about your feelings? Why doesn't he validate your feelings? This is a very important question. This is a very important dichotomy for me to really address right here. If a woman is with a man and she feels like that man doesn't validate her feelings, that means this is going on for a variety of reasons, right? Chances are you waited until he was already invested in you, right? To then express your feelings and your desires. And those feelings and desires are something that go contrary to his plan. Those feelings and desires are things that go contrary to things that will meet his needs. Not something that run along with them concurrently, but things that go contrary to it. It's one of those things where it's just like how a lot of women talk about how they got a degree or a master's, a doctorate, they're hardworking, they're career driven, but they don't understand why a lot of men don't value that. A man who's logical is going to value things that benefit him, right? If a man's logical, or if a man is taking that role of being a man, of being a leader, then the things he wants to do are going to be things that are going to benefit you if you're together. You get what I'm saying? Now, do you take benefit, or do you see the benefit in the things that he's offering you? If you don't see the benefit in his plan, then you're not compatible, right? Either you're not compatible or you're going through psychological reactance. And you're running off of emotions with being pushed through narratives of propaganda about what it means to be in a healthy relationship, not understanding that the things that you want run contrary to who he is as a man. Now, another aspect of it is this: sexual polarity erosion, right? So let's say you first started off dealing with that man. At that moment, the way that you felt about him was in a way to where you could express your emotions in a way that didn't go contrary to what his plan, his program, and his needs and his desires were, right? But once you start going through sexual polarity erosion, your feminine energy starts to disintegrate into masculine energy. And when you start disintegrating into your masculine energy, but you're not masculine enough to lead, to set expectations, to include the needs of others into your plan, then you're going to be feeling like your man is insecure because the things that you want to do are things that run opposite to what he's trying to do, especially if he's already invested in you for the purpose of that. So I'm going to create this dichotomy real quick. One woman can be career driven from the basis of, okay, I want to make sure that we're good. How am I going to make sure that we're good? I'm looking at, well, one, if you're following the lead of your man, okay, I'm looking at the household. I'm looking at our needs, the time that he needs, the time that I need. I'm looking at our sexual needs. I'm looking at our financial needs. And within looking at that, I think that it would be best for me to work so that he doesn't have to work as much, so that we can put some money into the side and grow together. But if your idea is you just want to have more money so that that man can't tell you what to do, then why would he support your growth? Right? Because let's say you're only listening to him telling you what to do because you don't have the money to do it yourself. Then the moment you have anything, you're not going to listen to him anymore. Or you're going to start to try to raise up at him. And a man's not going to support that, right? Let's say, there's a lot of feelings. Not everything you feel is valid, right? Not everything you feel is valid. And once you understand that not everything you feel is valid, then you understand that you have to make a conscious understanding of, okay, cool. These things that I feel, is this about me? Is this about him? Or is this about us? Understand that, right? Is this about me? Is this about him? Or is this about us? How you want to align yourself within integration is that the things that you feel benefit you are things that benefit him and things that benefit us. If the things that benefit you run contrary to him, right? They run contrary to him, but they benefit us in his mind, then chances are that man will get with whatever that is, right? Or he will develop a plan and find the time to take care of that. If the things that you want for you benefit him, in his own mind, the way he interprets things, then he's not going to have an issue with it. But if the things you feel like benefit you neither benefit him nor benefit us, right? He's not going to support that and be able to continue to invest in you in the same way that he has. So sometimes a man is not going to validate your emotions. One, because he knows that when your energy is better, when you're more feminine and submissive with him, you don't feel that same way. And he knows that your feelings are inconsistent. And if he validates and gives power and gives attention, time, energy to that emotion that you're feeling, that is only going to lead to further sexual polarity erosion, right? Or it's going to lead to his needs being unmet, or it's going to lead to validating and coddling your psychological reactance, where you're taking a mindset of trying to avoid being codependent, trying to avoid depending on him, so that you can be in a position where you're in more control and you're in more power. I think something to understand is that money is not the determinant of sexual polarity. Sexual polarity has nothing to do with money. Some women can have a lot of money and still be feminine and submissive with their man, but that's because they know how to compartmentalize their financial needs from their romantic and sexual relationship. So when it comes to their man, right, when it comes to their man, they're feminine and submissive. You have to know the difference between just being dependent, right, in a way where it's from survival mode versus making a conscious decision to say, you know what, he's right. It makes more sense for me to take time and to take care of the children, or for me to take care of the household while he works, because the job he has more money, right? And sometimes if you're in that position and you want to get to, if you're in a position where you have more money, and I'm just going to tell you something real, the man's grinding, he's taking his time, he's working on it, he's building up whatever he's building. Sometimes you can use your money to make it easier for him to get to the place where he has more money, because the thing to understand about men versus women is, in most circumstances, when a man has a woman, what benefits him benefits us, right? Most of the time, if he gets more money, that means there's more money going into you, and there's more money going into the household. There's more money going into us. But if your mindset is you want to get money so that you can put a nest egg to the side for yourself, so that you can start being more reactant, and so that you can start, quote unquote, standing up for yourself, you have to understand What is the reason you want to stand up for yourself? Why are you with a man who you feel like you need to have backbone with? Why are you with a man who you feel like you have to be resistant towards in order to function? Why are you with a man who you don't trust on that level? Right? Why are you with a man who you don't sexually desire? Why are you with a man and you feel that way about him? Chances are it's because you got that man when your cup was low. You were in a low space. Maybe you just came out of an abusive relationship. Maybe you just came out of a place of feeling depleted. Maybe you were in a relationship where there was a fuckboy who was playing with your emotions. So you wanted a man who was going to invest in you, spend time with you, care for you, emotionally validate you, socially validate you. But after you reach a certain point where you've received enough of that emotional validation, if you get to the point where you realize that, okay, you're starting to feel more secure, but then you don't respect him enough to be feminine and submissive with him, and you don't desire him enough to be feminine and submissive with him, then your new desires, your new needs are going to be to replace that man. Now, you may try to replace that man with yourself, right? And if you try to replace him with yourself and take the lead, then you're no longer going to desire or respect him, and you're going to want a new man, right? But you may try to just replace him with a new man. And oftentimes what a woman is doing is trying to put a man in a position, like a placeholder, even if it's her husband, trying to put a man in a position as if he's a placeholder to help her get to a position where she can replace him with a better man. Right? But what you have to understand is this. The man you're treating like that, he can be a better man for another woman who's going to be more feminine and submissive with him. Right? What you have to understand is that once you've agreed to be in a relationship, or once you've agreed to be in a marriage, that the goal shouldn't be that you're trying to level up with someone else, right? Or level up yourself in a way that makes you feel like you're better than your partner. The goal should be to continue to grow together, right? To continue to improve individually and improve together, so that you can get to a place where you're even more attracted and you respect your partner even more, and your sexual polarity begins to grow. And when it's high enough, then you can start integrating, right? And what do I mean by integrating? Like, what I mean about integrating when your sexual polarity is high enough is just like, think about Brody's scale of sexual attraction, right? And it's the 9-7 dichotomy. So I'm going to relate this directly to sexuality, but it's going to relate to some things outside of that. So if a woman has a 7 level of sexual attraction for a man, then chances are she's not having orgasms directly from penetration, right? She's not. Most of the time, it's not going to happen. Most relationships are prematurely integrated. That's a 6 to a 7 level of sexual attraction. And sexual polarity erosion can drop you down from there, right? So at a 7 level, that man has to eat your pussy for you to have an orgasm, right? You have to do external things outside of penetration in order to get your orgasm. So if he's giving that to you on a consistent basis and you're not enjoying the sex enough, then the sex may just be based off of allowing him to penetrate you because how he makes you feel emotionally. He makes you feel loved, he makes you feel desired, he makes you feel wanted, and he is able to play that game of cat and mouse. And then when you finally feel like he's played cat and mouse enough, if he plays the game right, you give in. Now, if sexual polarity erosion occurs from there, then that's not going to be enough anymore. Him kissing you in the house, right? Giving you random kisses, him giving you a massage, him loving up on you, him embracing you, him cuddling up with you. Those are going to be things that don't turn you on. Then you might start to become more transactional. Right? Well, if you took me out more. Understand this. If a man is giving you emotional validation, right, and that doesn't turn you on, then a man's logical mind is going to say, well, if this isn't working, then she's not feeling me the same. And if she's not feeling me the same, then why would I do more of what's not working in order to try to get what I want that feels transactional, right? You get what I'm saying? So when it drops down to a 6, it's like, well, if you took me out, no, right? No, we're not doing that. Like, he might try it, but if after he takes you out, you're talking about you're tired, then he's going to be like, okay, well, that didn't work, so that means he needs to try something different. And that's how a lot of women end up in relationships that they feel are abusive, right? Because if on that 7 level it doesn't work, and then he pulls back emotionally, and then when he pulls back emotionally, or he gets a little stern with you, or, then you start wanting to have sex with him more, then you're training that man in his mind to neglect you emotionally in order to get his sexual needs met. If you do that, then don't be acting like a victim if that's what he has to do to get his needs met, especially if he doesn't have the freedom to go meet those needs elsewhere. That's partially your fault. Partially, right? So the next thing is this: you got an 8 level of sexual attraction. On an 8 level of sexual attraction, this is how this works. On an 8 level of sexual attraction, sex is at the very minimum an equivalent exchange. So that means the idea of his penis going inside of your vagina is an equivalent exchange. If that's how you feel about sex with him, then it's cool, right? But at that point, it's probably kind of like head for head, unless you just very emotionally invested, or you feel good about him and you just really like him, so you want to give him head. But after a while, the head may slow down, or you don't really want to do it unless you're getting something in return, right? And if he's giving you too much of that, right, too much foreplay, right, and the foreplay is just, warming you up so that you're ready to have penetration, but you're excited about the penetration. It's like, all right, cool, it feels good. But if you're not having enough orgasms, if, you get into a relationship, then on an 8 level, you have to understand that an 8 level is about his masculinity, his directness, his assertiveness. So the more time that you spend together, the more you're going to see him less masculine, perhaps, because as he gets more emotionally invested, he's going to want to be a little bit less rough, a little bit less aggressive with you, unless the sexual polarity is raising. So as he gets emotionally invested in you, he's going to be too invested oftentimes to take the same aggressive approach with you, right? So on an 8 level, it's the aggression. You don't actively desire it, but if he does it in a way that's aggressive, it'll work. But if you get too entitled to emotional validation and to his time, attention, and energy on an 8 level, and then you receive so much of it, right, then you'll start to see him as less masculine. Then sexual polarity erosion will occur. And when sexual polarity erosion occurs, then you drop down from an 8 level. And when you're dropping down in how sexually receptive you are to the man, then it creates a different effect. So how that can work is this. Let's say y'all first dealing with each other, and you don't care what hotel it is. You'll have sex with him anywhere, right? Let's say you don't care where it is, what time it is, anytime, any place you're down. But then you start bringing up things and your standards start raising. You start bringing up things that you don't want to do, right? And as you start bringing up things that you don't want to do, then you start bringing up things and feelings that you have that you want him to validate. What you have to understand is that his validation of your emotions is not going to make you respect his masculinity more. be receptive to his dominance, and it's not going to make you receptive to his dick. It's just going to soothe your emotions. And a lot of women don't understand that. They're like, well, maybe if you took me out more, we'd have sex more. Like, no, that's transactional. Either you desire him or you don't. And if you don't, being transactional about it is disrespecting himself. Right? Now, this is the 9-7 dichotomy. So at a 9 level, those things don't turn you off, right? On a 9 level, you begin to grow sexually attracted, not emotionally validated and then willing to be transactional about certain things sexually because you're emotionally validated, but you begin to grow a purely sexual attraction to some of the non-sexual things that he does, to some of the non-aggressive things that he does. So that means you have a pure level of sexual attraction to him. At that pure level of sexual attraction, that man can do things that wouldn't be considered stereotypically masculine, right? Or by internalized definitions of masculinity, it starts to change your definitions of those things. So once you experience that, then you get to the place where that man can cook for you or something, it'll turn you on, right? You're having multiple orgasms from penetration, right? And when he eats your pussy, that's just like the cherry on top. You're getting some extra stimulation out of it. He give you a massage. That massage will turn you on. He's walking through the house. He kisses you on your neck. You're turned on. You know what I mean? He gives you a hug. You cuddle up with him. You're trying to see what that dick hitting on. Right? It's a certain effect that it has on you when you're at a certain level of sexual attraction. But what you have to understand is that when sexual polarity erosion occurs and a man can feel that your sexual attraction and receptiveness to him is lowering, right? If he can feel that it's lowering to the point where you're feeling more entitled to emotional validation instead of that being a cherry on top of his good deed and his guidance, then he's going to do that. Some men, what they're going to do is they're going to give you more of that, hoping to get sex out of it. But really, your respect for that man is lowering. Your receptiveness to his sexuality, to his dominant masculine energy, those things are lowering. And as those things lower, it's going to get to the point where he's going to realize that those things aren't actually turning you on. So at that point, he's either going to shut down, right? Like if he's trying to be transactional to get sex with you, you know, let's say he loves you, so he's being emotionally invested. He's trying to soothe you. He's trying to validate your emotions, but your emotions are things that go contrary to his plan, his program, and his desires and his needs. Then what you have to understand is either he's going to shut down, not really talk to you, especially if that's something that's worked before to get sex with you, or he's going to start to get a little frustrated, right? And he's not really going to hear what you're talking about. He's not going to care how you feel, because what you have to understand is that what meets a man's needs is feeling sexually desired, right? A woman being receptive to him, and a woman respecting him as a man. Not being loud, not being rude is less than the bare minimum of what makes a man feel desired, depending on what that man's experiences are. So when all you're saying is, well, I wasn't loud, I wasn't mean, I wasn't disrespectful. No, your whole energy, your whole mindset, your whole attitude, the thought process that you went to come to the conclusion of the things that came out of your mouth was disrespectful to that man. Because one, you're calling his leadership into question. Two, you're treating him as if he's not desirable. Three, you're not receptive to his masculine, his dominant energy. Four, you're feeling entitled to things that are supposed to be a cherry on top. And when those things begin to occur, then that man can feel that your desire is lowering for him. And when that man can feel that your desire is lowering for him, then if he continues to do the same things that he was doing before, which chances are it was being willing to compromise, being willing to listen to you and validate your emotions, being there for you, being consistent with you, loving on you, caring for you, and then your desire still continues to deplete, then that's when you get to the point where that man is typically going to start to go through sexual disintegration, right? Because his cup is getting low, right? And when his cup gets low, either it's going to be feminine and dominant or masculine and submissive. And chances are he might go to masculine and submissive first, because it's a slow disintegration, right, of his dominant energy into submissive energy, where he allows you to be in control and he allows you to be the primary giver of pleasure, right? But after a while, if that man starts remembering what it feels like to be masculine and dominant, he's going to be unsatisfied. He's going to be unhappy with you. And either he's going to cheat on you, tell you he's about to go fuck other women, or he's going to lose interest, right? Or he's going to start getting frustrated, and then he's going to start manipulating you to get his way, because that's just how those things work. You have to understand what a man's needs are. If you don't understand what a man's needs are, then you're going to be going through psychological reactance, thinking you're just trying to get your point across. You're going to feel like he's not seeing where you're coming from and validating your emotions, when chances are that man knows exactly where you're coming from. A lot of women don't understand that oftentimes your man may know you damn near better than you know yourself, because oftentimes you're in your emotions and he's studying you, he's understanding you, he's seeing how you felt at different points in different places in time. And because he's seen this, he's seen when your desire starts to drop, he's seen when different things start to drop. Now, there are some rare instances where a man is falling off, right? And when a man starts falling off, doing less, being less caring, being less kind, check yourself, right? Like, check in yourself to see if your desire level is dropped, or if you're yielding, if your submissiveness is dropped, if you're less emotional about that man, if you're less excited to talk to him, if the tone of your voice is less excited and enthusiastic when you get on the phone, if you don't have a smile on your face when you see him, if you aren't willing to have sex on as quick of a drop of a dime, if you aren't excited about sucking his dick, if these different things occur, if you're not excited to cook for him, right? Or if you don't appreciate the things he does to show you that he appreciates you, if those things have occurred, then it's partially your fault. But you also have to look, if it's a man who's just getting complacent, then he may fix the problem, right? He may fix the problem. But what you want to avoid is fixing issues in a relationship on a basis of sexual polarity erosion. Oftentimes that idea of communicating and getting on the same page, and when your same page isn't the masculine party, then that's going to cause you to lose further respect for him, lose further desire for him, and you may enjoy the emotional validation of communicating and compromising. But if your sexual desire begins to drop when you do that, then what you have to understand is that what you're doing may make you feel good in the moment, but it's actually hurting your relationship more than it's helping it, right? So what you really need to do is, so you can tell things is getting off, is give that man opportunities to be more in his masculine energy. If you need help with something, ask for his guidance, ask for that dick. I'm telling you some real shit. If he's masculine and dominant, or if he's just going through sexual disintegration, and I'm gonna tell you some shit, this might sound a little toxic, but hear me out. Let's say you're out and about, this man loves you. You could tell that he's starting to feel like maybe he lost his job or something like that, and he's starting to feel a little bit down. Go out somewhere, call him, let him know that your tire is flat, right? And when you let him know that your tire is flat, if he's on his way, flat the tire, right? If you're in the house and you're having a tough time opening up a pickle jar or some shit like that, ask him to open it. If a light goes out in the house, ask him to do it. If you got something heavy you need help with, ask him to get it for you. Allow him to do something that's masculine or dominant. Ask for his help. If you're going through issues, ask for his advice, ask for his guidance, and listen and follow through with the things that he tells you, and see if you see positive change from it, right? See if you see positive change. Give him an opportunity to give you some leadership or some guidance, right? It's a lot of different things that you can do. Sit back and reminisce on the ways that you felt about him when your sexual desire was at its peak, right? Embody, soak into that polarity, soak into that sexual desire. Think about those moments and realize that is the same man that you used to feel that way about. And when you think about that, put yourself into that mindset, put the petty shit to the side, and let him know that you need him to thrax that pussy. Let him know that you need him to beat it up. Tell him that you want him to fuck you like a slut. Let him know that you want to be dominated, right? Another thing that you can do is think about the stress that you're going throughout daily life, because daily life comes with stress. It can be hectic sometimes. When you're going through that, think about how if he dominates you, it's going to release a lot of that pent-up stress and frustration that you deal with. And if you go through that with him, then eventually you can start building up a dependence almost, right, on his dick, right? You can start building up a dependence to where when you're going through stress, you want one of your reflexes to be that you want him to fuck you to get rid of that stress. But you got to make sure you're listening to him, right? It's good dick and guidance. That's the recipe for submissiveness. You have to give yourself opportunities to be in your emotions. You have to give yourself opportunities to be in your feelings. You have to give yourself opportunities for him to give you guidance, for him to do things for you that are masculine, and do things that are aggressive, to be receptive to his aggression. Another thing is this is a very big one. You have to learn how to separate the stimuli from the emotion, from the past ways that you've interpreted the emotion to that stimuli, and the ways you interpret those emotions, right? And what I mean by it is this. Sometimes when you get into a certain mindset, something that will occur is that when you get into that mindset, you start dealing with psychological reactance. Certain things don't feel fair. Look at your past experiences, right? Look at how you've experienced the same exact thing with different people or with him at different points in time, and that you felt different about it at those different points in time. Understand that the way that you feel in certain moments that may feel aggressive or that may feel abrasive is just because you're not as feminine at that moment. You gone through, your cup got low. You went through some sexual disintegration. So you're into more of your masculine energy. Masculine energy is dry, right? Masculine energy is dry. And because masculine energy is dry, it's just like if your pussy gets dry. So you're gonna need some lube. You're not gonna be receptive to getting penetrated if the dick is big. If you're dry, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna feel abrasive. But that very same thing could be very pleasurable for you if you are in more of a feminine, wet, emotional, malleable state of mind. So when you learn to separate the stimuli from the emotion, from the way that you interpret that emotion, then you can start to reshape that in your mind. Now, he should learn how to do that for you, right? But if he can't do that at that moment, then it's like that. And one thing to understand is this: a lot of being a leader, it takes a lot of front running, right? So if you've done things that hurt or disrespected him over time, what you have to understand is that if he's continuing to invest in you, that it's going to come with a certain level of resentment. And that resentment means that there are going to be certain things that he may say or do that may hurt your feelings. And if you take a victim mentality and don't take any accountability for how you've hurt his feelings, then when this particular type of thing occurs, you may feel like he's just wrong. He's just the bad guy. He's just being abusive or whatever it is. Sometimes you have to take that verbal thrashing a little bit. I'm not saying let a dude beat your ass, but what I'm saying is if you take that, sexualize his aggression. Anytime he's aggressive with you up to a certain extent, sexualize it, right? Sexualize that aggression, right? And when you sexualize that aggression, trauma bond over things that you've caused. Let that hurt go, pussy. Let that hurt go with him. Don't let that hurt go with somebody else, because that's going to ruin how you see him. And if he's a better man for you than the man who you let that hurt go with, then now, if that dick feels like it was better because of the emotions that was wrapped up in it, that spite, that bitterness, that resentment that you let go through releasing it with the next person, then it's going to hurt your ability to rekindle the flame with him, because you've released that pent-up sexual energy. Sometimes what you have to do is this, and this is some really good advice for women right here. Some really good advice. Sometimes you have to adopt a persona, right? A persona that can be feminine and submissive with your man. Like, let's say if you have to take care of certain things, right? Let's say that that's part of your responsibilities. Maybe he lost his job. Maybe he got injured. Maybe, he had a death in the family, so he's not as masculine and dominant as he used to be. Then sometimes what you got to do is create a persona and think of a persona of him and separate that from this relationship. You can reintegrate it later, but sometimes you have to separate it. So just adopt a persona for yourself. A nasty girl mindset, a nasty bitch. One who isn't concerned with being respected. Somebody who wants to be treated and fucked like a slur, like a whore, like a slut, right? You have to adopt that mindset, compartmentalize that into certain areas, and then slowly integrate that from outside of the relationship and integrate that, into from that sexual aspect, and integrate that more and more into non-sexual aspects of the relationship. Because what you have to understand is that when it comes to relationships, every interaction between a man and a woman is foreplay. Every interaction is sex. Within sexual polarity, every time you talk to them, every time you interact with them, every time you see them, it's going to turn you off or turn you on in some capacity, right? Or it's going to be neutral, and neutral turns you off. So you have to understand that, man, it's often going to be polarity. It's often going to be polarizing. So what you have to understand is that you want to get to the place where your sexual desire, right, and your desire for that man permeates outside of the bedroom. But you have to start with the bedroom, and then you permeate out from there, right? So when you permeate out from there, then when he's aggressive and dominant with you, then those are going to be things that further turn you on. When you're receptive to his dominant masculine energy, when you're receptive to his sexual energy, then if he's not talking as much, right, because maybe he has a lot on his mind, or maybe he said something that was disrespectful, instead of that being something that makes you feel neglected, you will start to feel like you're being edged sexually, right? Getting delayed gratification. So you have to respect someone enough to get delayed gratification. And if that turns you on more, right, or if it makes you contrite, then you're in a position to where he can come back behind and he can soothe it, right? If you're in that particular situation, if he gets a little aggressive, then that'll turn you on. So when that turns you on, then when you're in more of a horny state of mind, when you're horny, you're less worried about certain things that would normally bother you if you're not in a sexual state of mind. So sexual integration is something that can very much help with the repairing of relationships, with the fixing of relationships. And, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but sometimes you need that cure. Sometimes you're with a good person. Sometimes you're with a person who you can respect, you can desire, you're attracted to them. You know what I mean? It's just that certain things, one of you, he didn't have the game to go through certain things at the time. Maybe you got, he fell in love with you. He loves you. There shouldn't be an issue that a man loves you if you're with him. So sometimes when that occurs, sexual polarity erosion will occur, and you have to integrate if you're in a relationship. Because if you can't integrate, then the things he does emotionally to take care of you are going to be things that cause you to lose respect for him as a man. This difference between respecting someone as a person and respecting them as a man, and your sexual desire for him, right? If you're just attracted to his aggression, if you're just attracted to that playful seduction, then what you have to understand is that there are different ways, different things that can turn you on. Sexualize, right? Sexualize that man, right? So if he has certain traits of his body that you can see yourself being sexually attracted to, fetishize them. If you like his hands, if his hands are big and strong, he got veins in his arms, think about his dick, right? If he's got a bald head, right? I got a bald head. If he's got a bald head, look at the head and think about gripping on the head when he's eating your pussy. If you see that beard, think about your pussy juices in his beard. If you see his forearms, they thick or whatever it is, think about his dick. You know what I mean? If you see his big legs, think about how strong he is. You see his back, think about how strong he is, right? There's different things. If you're listening to his voice, the reverberations in his voice, there's a certain way that the reverberations in a voice can hit you like it damn near hits you right in your clitoris. And when you're talking to him, it can be almost like a hypnotic effect that turns you on. When that doesn't affect you, right, that's when you're getting to a place where a lot of people will see it as maturity. A lot of people will see it as that's just what happens with relationships, but it shouldn't be that way. He should have a certain effect on you that just being in his presence should do something to you, right? If he has certain colognes that he wears, think about the best sex that you've had with him in situations where you smell that particular cologne, when you smell him, when you smell his body. Think about that, right? And when it puts you into that mindset, it should trigger sexual flashbacks. And through triggering sexual flashbacks or sexual things, it will raise your desire level. See, submissiveness is about desire and respect, right? Desire and respect. So that's good dick and guidance. That means that you should try to stay in the mindset of desiring his wisdom and his guidance, but listening to it and not being petty, not just asking to sound like you're asking, but legitimately desiring to learn from him, right? Not, oh, I just think it's funny how, or I just wanted clarification. Nah, don't do that goofy shit. I'm talking about legitimately wanting to know. When you put yourself into that place where you desire his guidance, you desire his leadership, but then you also desire to get fucked by him, then that's when you're going to be in a mindset and in a perspective to where you're going to be a lot more open and receptive to his dominance and his masculinity and his dick. And when you're receptive to that, that's when you're going to be in a place where it's going to help. Another thing that you can do is develop your dominant sexual ego when it comes to giving him head, right? That means you want to focus on the pleasure that you're giving him, right? And another thing is getting more submissive. So it's the dominant sexual ego and the submissive sexual ego. And I'm going to talk about that more in a different video. But that's enough for right now. This is Brody. I'm out.
It's not the